Hi there, gorgeous! Happy Frugal Friday to you. If you are new to the channel, welcome. I make videos like this every Friday, focusing on drugstore makeup. I also make videos on Mondays and Wednesdays, so if you'd like to be notified of new ones in the future, please subscribe, and thank you in advance if you do. Today I am sharing and reviewing some new palettes with you. These have been popping up all over the place, so I wanted to consolidate them down into one video. I'll be showing you some tutorials with these, swatches, giving you a full review for each one. I've had some good amount of time to test them thoroughly, so I feel like I can speak intelligently about them, and I'll let you know if any of them are worth checking out or not. First one we'll talk about here is Milani's Gilded Gold. This popped up in CVS recently, along with another one that I'll be talking about next. There are 15 eyeshadows within this palette in a mixture of shimmers and mattes, and it's very reminiscent to the Natasha Denona Golden palette. I believe that's what it's called. Same kind of color theme here. They had that beautiful pop of green right in the center, but a lot of gold and warm tone shades within this palette. A little expensive for a drugstore palette. I mean, 20 bucks for this, and that was at CVS. I think it may be a little less expensive on Milani's website, but even still you have to pay for shipping, so it may not actually be. Anyway, the quality is good with this palette. I did find it to be rather powdery, but still pigmented, so you will see a lot of fallout, a lot of dust kickback, that type of thing. If that doesn't bother you, I think you'd be really happy with the pigmentation that you get in this palette, and the eyeshadows are really easy to blend and work with. For the look that I created with this, I took the shade Extra Basic and applied it into the crease. This was one that I did have to build up simply because of the shade of the eyeshadow, nothing more, nothing less. Then I took the shade Eden, because I couldn't help but use this eyeshadow. It's such a beautiful green, it was screaming at me to use it. And I applied it to the outer half of the lid. I also blended this up into the outer V. Then I took the eyeshadow Legacy, which is this beautiful deep brown, and I used that to blend the edges of the matte green up into the crease a little bit better. And finally, I took the eyeshadow Awesome, and I used this on the inner half of the lid, and this really helps to brighten the entire look up tremendously. And to complete this look, I used L'Oreal's Wild Green Liquid Liner on the upper lash line, and I smoked that out with the Eden shade to give it a very sultry, soft appearance. Really love how that look came out, and this is one that I'm really interested in playing with just from the perspective of all the golds and the warm tones. And I feel like the color arrangement is really beautiful with this one. If you love these kinds of colors, I think you'd really enjoy this palette. Just the price is what threw me off with it personally. The next palette I have to review from you, another one from Milani. This is a new face palette that they came out with recently. So you get 9 eyeshadows in some very vibrant, warm shades, and you get 2 face highlighters. I will warn you now, the look that I'm about to show you with this palette is incredibly bold. It's very red based. If you like red based warm toned eyeshadows, this is a really good palette to try. Same kind of quality as the previous Milani palette I talked about. The eyeshadows are a little powdery but pigmented, and you don't struggle to get them on the eyes, you don't struggle to blend them, and overall very good quality with this one. To create the look with this palette, I used Lit in the crease, and you can see what I mean there. That is such a pinky based red eyeshadow. It is a very vibrant shade. Matte in consistency, glides right on. Then I took the shade Ignite and I applied it to the inner half of the lid. Again, very red, very bold, but if you like to go bold, you would love this. And then finally, I took the eyeshadow Fuego and applied it to the outer half of the lid. And I could have gone with a little bit more gold in this look, but you know what? I really wanted to emphasize the color payoff that you get with these eyeshadows and how intense they look on the eyes. And finally, to help break up some of the redness that was going on there, because there was a lot of red on the eyes. I mean, it really was. I took the shade Legacy from the Gilded Gold palette that I talked about previously, and I used that in the outer V and the outer crease. And that really does help to soften the redness and bring it back down to earth a little bit. The other thing that helps make this look a lot more wearable is the addition of black eyeliner on the upper lash line and lower waterline. So keep that in mind. If you do try a red-based look out like this, usually the addition of a darker eyeliner can help to make it a lot more wearable. And for the face highlighters, oh, these are extremely beautiful. If you've tried any of Milani's highlighters in the past or any of their blushes, you get the same kind of quality with the ones that you can find in this palette. And I'm showing you what they look like on application here so you can see the type of results that you get. Simply stunning, very beautiful. And if this is a palette that interests you, I think you'd be most impressed by it. Now, the next palette I have to share with you is not brand new in the sense that it just came out, but it is a more recent release that a lot of people have been asking me to review. So I went ahead and purchased it. This comes from Wet n Wild. It is their 32 pan eyeshadow palette. Great conglomeration of shades in this palette in the same traditional formula that we've become accustomed to with Wet n Wild. Very creamy, pigmented, no difficulty with color payoff or blendability with any of these eyeshadows. They all apply extremely well. What I did notice when I was really using this palette and looking at it and studying it is that if you already have a lot of the 10 pan eyeshadow palettes, you probably have a lot of these shades already, and I'll show you up close what I mean with a couple of the ones that I have already. There are a lot of repeat shades that you can find between those palettes and the 32 pan eyeshadow palette. And I don't feel like they've added that many new shades into this palette. There are some newer shades in here that are not located within those 10 pan palettes, but for the most part, there are, like I said, a lot of repeats. So keep that in mind. For the look that I created with this palette, I love this look, by the way. I used the Cool Tone Gray located at the bottom of the palette in the crease, and I absolutely love this shade. This is one that I don't think was duped in the 10 pan eyeshadow palettes that I currently own. So this is a newer release. Love how it applied. I love how it pulls this whole look together, which you'll see here in a few minutes, but it's so gorgeous. Then I took this light blue and I applied it to the inner half of the lid, but I had to apply it wet because it wasn't applying as vibrantly as I would have liked for it to. And that is a problem that I've run into with Wet n Wild eyeshadows in the past. Sometimes I do have to apply them wet to get more vibrancy out of them. So I wasn't necessarily surprised by this, but I did want to mention it. Then I took this dark green blue eyeshadow from the palette and I applied it on the outer half of the lid. No trouble with color payoff with this one. It was extremely pigmented. Finally, I went in with this deep teal and I applied it into the outer V, adding a lot of depth to this look. And to pull the whole look together in the final application, I used LA Girl's Ultimate Eye Pencil in the shade Totally Teal on the waterline, and then I smudged more of that cooler gray eyeshadow that we used in the crease in the beginning on the lower lash line. Love this look. It was so stinking beautiful on the day that I created it, or I should say the night that I created it. There was one night when I was just doing look after look after look for this video specifically, and I didn't want to wash it off because it was so pretty. So I will just tell you that if you don't already own a lot of these 10 pan palettes, and you want to have a large selection of colors, I think you would most enjoy this palette from a quality perspective and also a price perspective, because I feel like for what you're getting and the price you're paying, it's extremely affordable. The last palette I have to share with you is a new release from LA Girl. This is their Born exclusive palette. Massive, massive palette. This is the largest palette I think I've ever seen them produce. 35 eyeshadows within this one. The packaging is gorgeous. I just want to show you this packaging up close. Very elegant, beautifully put together. And by the way, the names of the eyeshadows, thank you, LA Girl, thank you. They are sophisticated, they're classy, they're not crass by any means whatsoever, and they're positive, which I personally like to see for a change in an eyeshadow palette. I'm just going to put it out there. I do. Because this palette is so big, I created two different looks with it because I was having a lot of fun playing around with it, and it is one that I do want to continue using simply because I've really been enjoying it, and the quality is right up there. I mean, the eyeshadows are very creamy, they're very smooth, easy to blend, easy to apply. It's one of the best LA Girl palettes that I've had the pleasure of trying. And I would highly recommend it to you. So for the first look that I created with this palette, I used the shade High Spirited in the crease. This is a very warm eyeshadow, and there were a lot more warmer shades in this palette compared to cooler shades. You do get a mixture of both, but for the most part, there are a lot of warm shades in this palette. Then I used the shade Poise to deepen the crease and the outer V of the eye, and this is a neutral matte brown. Taking the shade Leisure, I applied this to the inner half of the lid, and this is a cooler toned purple, really pretty. I wish they would have put more purples in this palette. That is what I would have liked to have seen, but I like the ones that they did include in here. And finally, I took the shade Swanky, applied this to the outer half of the lid, and blended it up into the outer V. Excellent quality. Most impressed with these eyeshadows, and I love how that look came together. For the second look that I created with this palette, it is the combination I'm wearing in today's video. So if you've been curious about what's on my eyes today, this is what I am wearing. Taking the shade Exclusive, I applied this onto the lid, very pigmented. You would think I was applying this wet, but I'm not. This is applying it dry. Now you can apply it wet if you really want to amp up the vibrancy, but it applied really well all by itself. I took the eyeshadow Posh, applied it into the crease. Again, another warm toned neutral. You can see what I mean about how easy they are to apply. A very little bit goes a long way. They are not powdery, and when you blend out the edges, it's effortless. It's a wonderful formula with these eyeshadows. Finally, I took the eyeshadow Kind, and I used this in the outer V and the outer crease of the eye to add some definition and depth. And on my lower waterline in this look, I'm wearing an Ardell Wanna Get Lucky gel liner pencil. It's their purple shade. No name on my particular pencil, but that's what I applied on the waterline. And I also used some more of the Posh shade that I used in the crease to help smudge everything out there too. And beautiful. Again, another beautiful look. So I'm very happy to tell you that this palette is really worth looking into, and for the price, phenomenal all the way around. So if you're interested in any of the palettes that I shared with you here today, I will try to have all of them listed and linked for you below. I did purchase the Wet n Wild palette off of their website. This is not one that I was able to find in stores. And like I said, the Milani palettes were ones that I found in CVS. The LA Girl palette was part of PR, so I did not purchase this one, but I did see it in CVS alongside the Milani palettes, so it is out there and available right now if you're interested. I hope you found this helpful today. If these are palettes that have sparked your attention, let me know if you've had the opportunity to try them out, what you thought about them. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time to watch and for being here. Wishing you a beautifully blessed weekend ahead, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.